Welcome back to another video. Over the next 6 videos, we're going to be talking all things talent. In today's video, we're going to be taking an in-depth review at specialization and when athletes should reduce to playing a singular sport. So I know you're all wondering, what is specialization? In recent times, specialization has been a topic of interest to those within the sporting industry. The rise in prolific ankle, knee, and hip injuries has sparked debate amongst professionals into the causes. Although a clear definition of specialization doesn't exist currently, most professionals refer to Giamfi et al. 2013, who defines it as the intensive participation of a singular sport year round, excluding all other sports. Early specialization is pre-maturation, typically anywhere before the ages of 11 or 12. Is early specialization a negative thing? The concept of specializing early is often associated with negative issues such as injury and burnout, Mostafivar et al. 2012. However, there are a handful of sports where this is generally associated with being the most effective way to develop professional athletes. Specializing early allows for skill mastery. Giamfi et al. 2013 was a big fan of the idea of specializing and the opportunity for athletes to master skills. This idea was generated from musicians and how the more they practice at the same skill, the better they got. However, the study didn't take into consideration the psychological impacts nor the long term issues. Specialization is a short term solution in the grand scheme of things, with the risk of preventing lifelong engagement for sport, whereas diversification promotes the LTAD's model, career in sport. Gymnastics are an anomaly and highly advocate for early specialization. They have proven that their methodology in developing athletes is effective. But why is this? Is it a biological reason, or could it be due to the highly complex skills required to be at the top? In fact, Feely et al. 2015 discusses the early peak in professional gymnasts and further explores how increased levels of flexibility is important to access their sport specific skills. Could this be the reason as to why gymnasts retire so young? Nia Wilson, a former GB Olympic gymnast, retired at the age of just 25 due to ongoing injuries, having a professional career of only 8 years. Skills in gymnastics are highly complex and require many hours of training at a high intensity. Could this have been taking its toll on Niall? On the other hand, specialising in sports such as football and rugby poses a threat to the athlete's lifelong career in sport. Unlike most research, Benenteso 2024 studies how specialization affects female athletes. Most research available targets male athletes and typically the physical issues specialization causes. Yet this article provides an in-depth review at both the physical and psychological issues caused. ACL tears are a serious injury which seem to be on the rise. However, they are more common in females due to the angle of the hips. This, along with overuse injuries, are the most prolific for a female athlete. However, this is only the first issue, as such a serious injury has proven to cause post traumatic stress disorder in these athletes at a higher rate to their male counterparts. This highlights the importance of mitigating the risk of serious ankle, knee, and hip injuries through diversification. Benenteso 2024. Another prominent issue linked to specialization is the psychological effects it has on the female athlete. Eating disorders are a common issue in early specialization sports like gymnastics and figure skating. This could be due to the long training hours and pressure put on the athlete to perform. Cote et al. 2009, a leading researcher into the field of sports coaching and athlete development, describes diversification as a method promoting multi-sport participation year-round. Interestingly, the research discusses the need for involvement in a wider variety of motor and sports activities through free play. This strategy aims at maximizing the child's skills physically, emotionally, and cognitively. Franzen et al. 2012 explores the difference in physical fitness between the ages of 6 and 12, deeming sampling as having a positive effect on fitness and gross coordination. These players were ahead of their peers athletically, and although not stated in the report, we can assume their risks of injury would have also been lower due to research into early diversification by Benenteso 2024. Another benefit of sampling is the opportunity for skill transfer. Skill transfer is where an athlete is able to use a skill from one sport and apply it to another. This is supported by Causer and Ford 2014, whose research into skill transfer explores how cognitive skills are also able to be transferred between sports during athletic development. Interestingly, this applies to decision making, suggesting that the ability to make good decisions can be used across similar sports. The next video, I'll be delving into the topic of talent transfer and some of the key concepts involved. If we look at the football academy system in the UK, typically teams will start recruiting players from the age of 9. However, some clubs use pre academies, which allows them to recruit players before this age. Is this useful for player development, or is it a way or a loophole to prevent other clubs from recruiting them? Borussia Dortmund were seen as pioneers in the terms of academy products. Interestingly, they opted to select players between the ages of 11 and 13 who had a history of playing multiple sports. They deemed these players as well rounded due to the fact they had played more than just football in their golden years of development. Other clubs at the top level, such as Bayern Munich and Ajax, have also taken similar steps to reduce the likelihood of specialising too early. The athletic skills model, founded by René Wormalt, is a talent development model for the elite, recreational, and unorganised sport. This research shifts the perspective to athlete development rather than becoming a specialist. First an athlete, then a specialist. Wormalt suggests that well-rounded motor skills such as jumping and throwing help develop a foundation for success in all sports. This, along with the reduced injury risk and improved performance, help the ASM to ensure physical activities are more enjoyable and sustainable. This links nicely to the LTAD model's goal of a lifelong career in sport. So, that brings us to the end of our specialisation video. Now, early or late? I believe early diversification is appropriate for my context of football, based on research from Benintesa and Gianfi. However, for gymnastics and figure skating, early specialisation has proven to be the most effective. As a coach, it is always important to have the athlete's development as the priority over competitive success. Tune in to the next video on skill transfer and the key concepts